the first thing I want to show you is my CV, a bit like shortened, but basically after high school, I started studying chemistry in Germany, but I quitted that after one semester because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I just didn't like it as much as I enjoyed it in high school. So after that, I switched to business administration, and then I finished this degree. And after that, I came to Korea, and then I did my master's degree in ITFM. And regarding the professional side, before 2016, I had several small internships. I had like part-time work in some kind of like little online trade companies, or I was like a tutor for like mathematics or physics for like students. And then after that, 2016, basically, I had an internship at CJ Europe, which is part of the CJ Bio. And there I was assigned to the accounting and finance unit. And that internship took place near Frankfurt in Germany. Then after I joined GSIS in 2018, I got a chance of an internship at the CJ Corporation, which is like the holding group of all the CJ subsidiaries. And that internship was placed in Seoul. And then 2019, I had a second internship for CJ Group, this time in the business development of CJ Bio, and that also took place in Seoul. And then basically now the final step. Right now, I'm working for Bank of China in the AML team, which is the short version for anti-money laundering. And basically I joined in October 2019. The first 3 months, I joined as a sanction compliance analyst. And then in January 2020, I switched to my final role according to the plan that we made up when I joined Bank of China. And now I'm working as like an AML analyst, basically. And just to give you like an idea what I'm doing, when I was working as a sanction compliance analyst, basically we ensure that like our business is like in compliance with the sanction regimes and also the different embargoes. For example, there's embargoes by the US, there's embargoes by the European Union, or there's UN embargoes. And there might also be like some Chinese sanctions that we enforce. And when I say that we enforce, that means we check all the different payment streams or the different incoming transactions or outgoing transactions, as we are also like the clearing bank for renminbi in Europe, and also do like euro clearing between China and Europe. And therefore, we can basically decide based on our guidelines if we let a certain transaction through or if we block them. But we have to keep in mind that when we block them or if we let them through, that has like implications. If we let it through and it was violating an embargo, for example, there will be a fine for us. And we're talking about fines with like 2-digit million amounts. And if we block it and it was not like an embargo sanction, so basically it was like a clean transaction, then we will have to pay like a fine from the other bank or like the clearing banks that like channeled the payment through our bank. So there's always like this kind of like tension field between letting something through and blocking something. But usually our goal is to be risk sensitive. So it's better to block something than to have like some insecurity if it's like sanction compliant or not. And then my current position, which I'm working for 10 months basically now, is the anti-money laundering analyst. And there you do like some kind of after event analysis. So basically our system filters already according to like indicators that we set in the previous, and we tell the system, please, if X happens, then tell us which transaction and let us have a look at it. And then we can decide, yeah, that is plausible or it's not plausible. And if there is a suspicion, then we conduct like an EDD, which is an enhanced due diligence, and we look at all the relevant transaction data. For example, the previous account movements, the address of the customer, let's say the business of the customer, what kind of payment it is, the amount. There's a lot of like different areas where you have to look in. And then once you have like a suspicion and you can be more or less sure that there's like a really high degree of like money laundering risk, then you have to report it to the authorities, because the German Money Laundering Act is really strict. And even like the slightest suspicion that is like rooted somehow within evidence, you have to report it. Otherwise the bank is in trouble, because there again, there's a lot of fines. And for example, if you let too many strange transaction pass, and if you never report something and then you have like an audit and they find something, then basically what they can do in the last step, they will take away your banking license and then your whole business is gone, which is not desirable, I guess, for most banks. And besides this main activity, we also have a lot of like communication with the authorities. For example, the prosecutor, they send us requests for informations. Then we have to process that. We do the KYC control, which is short for Know Your Customer. So basically our first line of defense, which means the business departments, they also have to pay attention for money laundering specific activities or specific data. And we check them if they did it right. For example, there's a guideline how you identify certain customers. What is the risk class you have to assign to that customer based on his like profile. And then we check if they did it right 2 times a year. And also what we do, we conduct trainings, anti-money laundering trainings for the different business departments. We update them on the newest like regulations. We, for example, give them like hints what they can improve, or we tell new employees, for example, what they have to pay attention to so that our like compliance is ensured over all business departments. And another point in Germany, that basically that is like my main task now, because we also have like some tasks that are like mainly one person is doing. I'm ensuring the KWG compliance, which is just like an article in the German Money Laundering Act, which says that you have to report all the accounts that you have in your bank to the authorities. And sometimes if that server has like a mistake or if the upload fails or something like this, we have to act immediately and put it in by hand, or we have to check sometimes if the record is still up to date. And then you need a lot of like XML, because you have to see all the different code, and then the error code comes up, and then you have to decide what is the next step. Can I solve it by myself, or do I have to send it to the business departments and request additional information? Yeah, and basically that is also like an important task, because there again, there's like high fines, because the authorities really want you to be compliant and really want all the data to be up to date and complete, because what they are doing, they basically can see all the accounts that exist in Germany, and they can like pick it out and then write you like a letter. Yeah, please tell us the information regarding your customer XYZ with the account number ABC, because there is like some kind of criminal investigation regarding human trafficking or something like this. And then they want like fast replies. So the better your data is up to date, the easier all these like requests can be handled, and the better your relationship with the authorities will be in the future. Then regarding Bank of China, just for the ones that don't know Bank of China, that's like a really short overview. Basically, Bank of China started in 1905 as the Daqing Hubu Bank, which was still when China had an emperor, as you might know. After that, they changed their name until 1912 as the Daqing Bank. And then afterwards, they changed their name again, Bank of China, and that is basically the name which is running until today. The first role of Bank of China was the central bank, so they were issuing currency. Then after that, they focused more on being a commercial bank. They did like trade financing, international activities. They had the first overseas branches before 1920. The first one was Hong Kong, then 1929 London, which was like a really big step. And then after that, Japan, Osaka. And basically nowadays, Bank of China is the 4th largest bank in the world in terms of asset size. Basically, you can say it's the most international bank of these big 4 banks in China, which is the Agricultural Bank of China, then Bank of China, then the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and the China Construction Bank. And the thing for Bank of China is we are basically that one bank that has so far the most international experience, and also the largest portion of like overseas branches and like overseas expansion. And there you can say basically Bank of China is on every inhabited continent. We have 27 countries where we're operating. Then we have really strong focus on globalization and international cooperation. Basically also, if you think about the Belt and Road Initiative, also Bank of China is a key player in that project, because we enable the financial streams regarding these projects. And also Bank of China is really involved in many projects regarding international companies that want to do business in China. They enable like the payment between parties on different continents in different currencies. And basically in order to achieve that, 1989, Bank of China Frankfurt was opened as the first branch. And nowadays we have 6 branches in total. Frankfurt is the headquarter. That's where I'm working. And then we have Berlin, Hamburg, Düsseldorf, München, Stuttgart as our sub-branches. And for example, our department also is monitoring what the sub-branches are doing. And we are also controlling them like in regular intervals regarding money laundering. And basically the important part about Frankfurt is we are like located at the financial key point in Europe. And also there's a lot of like connection. We have like the European Central Bank in Frankfurt. We have one of the fastest internet connections in Frankfurt in Europe. We have a really good connection to like Great Britain because it's pretty close. We are like central in Europe. So Frankfurt is actually a really important place for financial industry. And then what Bank of China Germany is mainly doing, we are the only Chinese euro clearing bank so far. Then we are also doing a renminbi clearing in Germany, which is also, we are like the only bank that does that. And also an important part is that we have private as well as corporate banking. So basically everyone in Germany can open an account at Bank of China. The other banks, for example, ICBC, they had like a plan to do it, but they're not doing it. So we are like the only bank where you can open also like a renminbi account if you're studying abroad or something. For students as you are, it's also sometimes important to have an account at Bank of China when you do like an exchange semester. And right now we have more than 11,000 customers. And also among these customers, they're like key players in the industry, like all these DAX companies and like really big multinational corporations. So our business is really diverse and also has like really important counterparties. That's why Bank of China Germany is, in my opinion, a really interesting employer. Then regarding our HR environment, so I can tell you if you want to join Bank of China Germany, they invest a lot in your talent development. They pay a lot for your, let's say, professional certifications, or they will give you like some trainings from like external parties. Then you always have a chance to switch between departments to learn something new, and it's encouraged to have like a broader view on like different topics. And also right now, even though all the other companies in Germany are like suffering under the corona, basically Bank of China in the near future will be hiring again. And because as you might know, China's GDP is growing, even though corona pandemic was like affecting the global economy. So as long as there's like growth in China, Bank of China in Germany will of course also grow. And if you grow, you need new employees, which is interesting for you maybe. And also in general, the people, for me, it was like a really positive surprise. They're always like friendly and helpful. They want to give you a lot of like help if they see that you're struggling with something. Or for example, in my case, I cannot speak Chinese, but even though there's like, maybe I'm the only person in the room that cannot speak Chinese, then they will switch to like English, or most of them can also speak German, my colleagues. So basically it's a really like welcoming place to work. And also I like the flexibility, because if there's like a problem, the solution is usually found pretty fast, maybe within 1 or 2 hours. Whereas if I compare it to like German companies from my previous experiences, yeah, it can take like days. So it's really, for me, I really like it. Yeah, and then maybe as we have a career fair, I also want to tell you something about my way from going to like internships to like that full-time position now, even though you might say it's not really related, but still, if you have like an internship, you learn a lot of like soft skills that help you to get along in your full-time position after graduation, for example. So as you can see, even though the areas of my internships are totally different from the financial sector, still you learn like a lot of important skills that really help you in every position. So internships are important regardless of the background. So let's look at the internship in Europe. That was basically the starting point of my, and let's not say career, but basically the starting point of all the professional developments. And basically what I did, I joined an info session of the KOTRA, which is like the Korean Trade and Investment Agency in Germany. and they brought me into contact with the company called CJ, which I didn't know at this point. So I just wrote them an email and asked for like positions, if they have like working student positions or internships, but the answer was no. So I was not really happy at this point, but then again, I was a bit, how can I say, my endurance was quite high. So after he told me, basically ask me again in 1 year. So I took it serious, and then exactly 1 year after that email, I wrote him again and tell, yeah, how about the internship? And he was saying, yeah, we still don't have it, but how about you come over for coffee and we can talk about it? And then we talked about it, and at the end, he said, actually, yeah, there's one position with like bookkeeping related and finance. So if you want that, I think we can make something that you can be like our working student, like 20 hours per week, and then you can still study. And then, of course, I said yes. And what happened? I had like 6 months of that working student position. It was even prolonged 3 months, basically after I finished my bachelor thesis. And it gave me like my first insights into accounting, and also what they told me, because I was doing my work always pretty well, they gave me a lot of responsibility. So basically after 4 months, I was doing the creditor bookkeeping more or less on myself or by myself. And for me, that was my first real like task in a professional environment. And it also gave me a lot of like positive pressure to develop further and to like work on the areas that might be a problem. For example, how detailed I am with like some numbers, or how detailed I am with like dealing with deadlines or documents. And that was quite valuable. And then basically the 2 internships in Korea, of course, it's the same company. So you might think, oh yeah, he knew something, and then he just called them and they give him like a position. Actually, it was not like this, I would say. Basically what they did, they had like a posting with like open internship positions. And what I did, I just sent my CV, and then they screened it. And once I had the interview, they of course asked me, yeah, you work for CJ Europe. What did you do there? And then, yeah, I did accounting. And then, as you can see, this is like a strategy department internship. They said, yeah, but why should we hire you now for the strategy department? And then I told them, yeah, I'm interested in the development or like the global development of the company, and that I could like contribute because you want to go into the European market. I'm from Europe, so it might be an asset for you. And yeah, then they hired me for 2 internships in a total of 5 months. And that was also quite valuable because you had like experience in a Korean office, which is like not an experience a lot of like people from Europe have. And also it helped me to be better at Korean, because my colleagues, once they knew I could speak a bit, they always like pushed me to speak more. And then that even helped me, for example, to have like topic 5 before leaving Korea and starting my new position in Germany. And then Bank of China, basically, I would say it was like some kind of good luck. It was not really luck, but a friend of mine, she's Chinese, and she told me, yeah, if you're looking for a job, and I thought you might be interested in like the banking sector, why not give like a try to Bank of China? And then I said, yeah, actually, I didn't think about that before, but now as you say it, let's see. And then I checked the website. Then I wrote an email to the recruiting officer and asked him if there's open positions. And he said, yes, we have open positions in legal and compliance department. So if you're interested, we can have like an interview. And then I said, yeah, okay, that's okay. But right now I'm in Korea, so how can we do it? And he said, yeah, once you come back, just call me, and then we schedule it like quite timely. And then what I did, once I touched down in Frankfurt airport, I called him basically in the airport and said, how about the interview? And he said, yeah, you can come to the interview on Monday. And I landed on a Saturday. So basically 2 days after being back, I had my first interview. And yeah, then I had the second interview 2 weeks after that. And after that, again, I got hired, and all this like in like 1 month time. So it was quite swift, let's say it like this. So which was also like pretty nice for me, because then I didn't have all the insecurity or like all the risk that I might be unemployed for like 5, 6, 7 months. So that was really helpful, and they were like really proactive. In general, what I experienced with like applicants in Germany, they are like really proactive and really fast in responding, and they always try to help you at least with like an internship or something. So for the European people, because I mean, if you want to work in Germany, you need a European passport. at least. So if you have a European passport and if you want to work for Bank of China Frankfurt, just give it a try. I attached the email in my last slide, so you can just write them an email. And then the outcome so far from my current position, no, that's wrong. From my current position, basically what I can do here, I started legal and compliance without any like knowledge before, except for my internships and what I learned in graduate school. But even after like 1 or 2 months, I had my first like own roles where I was like totally in charge and where I had to like report to my boss directly. And once they, for example, saw that I was doing well at like a certain area, they gave me a lot of new responsibilities regarding that area quite quickly. So I think here at Bank of China Frankfurt, you have a really nice learning curve. And also because it's really, you have expats from China, you have also meetings in English sometimes, then you have German colleagues. It's really like a nice international place, and the atmosphere is usually really friendly, I can tell you. And yeah, and so far I'm quite happy with that position. And I think 1 month ago, it was already 1 year anniversary. So regarding this point, I'm still really happy. And then I prepared some advice for you. Maybe, I don't know if it's already what you do anyways, but still I want to share what you really should do if you want to have like some clues, or if you need help, ask Professor Ree or the CDC, because they really can help you. For example, I think Professor Ree is now in touch with CJ directly. So if you are interested, for example, in the CJ internship, I think you can approach him directly and maybe he can help you to get it. And also another point, you should always have like an open mind, because if I wouldn't have listened to my friend, or if I wouldn't have had been open to like a Chinese company or Bank of China, I wouldn't have found that like nice opportunity. Because if you from the beginning you say, oh no, Chinese company, no, then of course if you say that in a lot of areas, it won't work in the end, because you will be too picky, and then there might be a lot of opportunities that you let like slip away. So always try to be like open-minded. And also what I want to tell you about classes, that I will go just like following the clockwise, because it's a bit mixed. So what you should do basically in university, in my opinion, because I had like some colleagues that chose like the classes because they said it was easy, and then in the end they came out and they said, oh, it was so hard. Yeah, that's because you're not interested. So if you're interested in something, then it feels easier, even though it might be harder on like an objective scale. So try to choose like interesting classes, because then it's way easier to follow. And for example, also always show some perseverance and endurance. As I told you with the boss from my first internship, right after 1 year, I wrote him a second email, and then he said, oh, that was the first like impressing point, because I really remembered him and I was like really waiting for 1 year. So that might have been the point why I got that like invitation for coffee, which led to that position in the end. So you never know what happens, just like stick to it, and it might be quite helpful. Then another point, invest in yourself, regarding health, regarding education, regarding, let's say, vacation is also like a point. For example, the more you see, the more you can experience, and the more your mind will open up to new things, like new cultures or new like ways of thinking. So I would take that really serious, that point, because an investment in yourself doesn't necessarily have to be like monetary. It can also be some kind of like, how can I say that? Some kind of like spiritual. So maybe you should consider if there is like a way how you can broaden your horizon to a certain degree. And then, of course, leverage your network. If you know people that are already in that company that you want to apply for, ask them like, what is important? What can you tell me about? What can you tell me about certain areas where they're like expanding? Are they looking for like German speakers? Are they looking for Italian speakers? I don't know. These information, usually you only get it from inside people. So if you know someone, ask them, because they will usually tell you. Then what I want to tell you, use your free time wisely in combination with read. I know like dramas and this kind of stuff, and Netflix is really nice. And I also watch it sometimes. But what I experienced, the more you waste your time on things like this, the more time is wasted in general and your lifetime is limited. So really think about what goes in and what kind of things you let into your mind and what kind of things you let occupy your mind. And therefore, I would be a bit attentive to this area, because now looking back after graduating, there would have been a lot of things that I could have been doing in parallel to my studies, because there was a lot of time actually. Now, if you're working like 8 or 9 hours a week, there's not that much time anymore. And once you come home, there's a lot of things you want to do instead of studying. So really like use your school time, because there's a lot of like free time that can be useful for your further development. Another thing is leverage your skills. I mean, another point why I got that internship in the Korean company, of course, was because I was studying Korean at that point and they were impressed with that. And it was also useful for like internal documents. So if you have like a special skill, for example, I don't know, SQL, XML, all these like programming languages, or like a language that is like uncommon, but if it's like high in demand, for example, there is like an area where a certain company wants to expand, try to leverage that specific skill, because that in the end might be the deal maker that puts you into that position and gives you like a competitive edge over all the other applicants. So always try to see like opportunities with the things that you have. And then another thing, don't let others discourage you. For example, my parents, when I told them I want to go to Korea for like my graduate studies, they were like, yeah, but can't you go to like Spain or Portugal or something, or France? And I was like, yeah, I could do that, but I want to have like some new challenge, and I also want to be like in a completely different like cultural environment. So basically, even though they were like really against it, and they were like, yeah, but who's going to pay for that? And yeah, it's really, you're far away, and if something happens here, what can you do? And I was like, yeah, then I cannot do a lot, sadly, but still I want that experience. So sometimes you have to make like your own step, and should follow your own decision and don't listen to others too much. I mean, you should listen to others if they warn you, but in terms of these areas, you should be a bit more like proactive and a bit more brave. Yeah. And basically, besides that, I really like the Yonsei GSIS library, and I was there a lot of time. So I think that place is great to study. So I would give it a shot, because, for example, in my case, if I'm at home, I cannot really concentrate. So a library like this, where you can also bring your food and your drinks and stuff. I mean, I'm not sure if it's still allowed, but when I was, okay, maybe not. But it was really helpful, because, for example, in Germany, you can only bring 1 bottle of water in the library. And that is also not really convenient. So if you have a library with that like lax rules, you should really use it. And also my last point, yeah, you should always try new things. For example, when I got the offer with the legal and compliance position, I didn't know what to expect. But then I said, yeah, but that actually maybe it sounds interesting. The whole sector basically is like in growing demand. So the compliance and especially the money laundering area, there's a lot of opportunities, and the more strict, for example, the national laws become, the easier it will be for you to find a job, of course, because once there is like a change and you need more AML analysts or more like staff for all these positions, then someone that has like experience in that area will be in high demand. So you can also look which areas are like developing, and then just give it a shot, and maybe you will reward it at one point. And that's it basically. Now I'm waiting for your questions. And as you see, there's like the email address from recruiting Bank of China Frankfurt. The name of the person is either Mr. Wang or Mrs. Purina, which is Purina. So you can just address them directly. Maybe that is helpful. Or you just write ladies and gentlemen, but yeah, maybe you can use it. And then if you have specific questions for me also regarding CJ or all these other things, you can write me like WeChat, or you can write me on LinkedIn or just send me an email. But please don't send me like viruses or something, just like a normal email. That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex, for your very interesting presentation. Before I say anything else, I would like to go ahead and take a group photo if you guys want to like strike a pose or something. Or if you don't want to take a picture, just turn off your cameras. I'm gonna go ahead in 3, 2, 1. Yes, I did a pose. Okay, so I was very impressed, let's say, by all the very dangerous stuff you have to deal with. Like, you have to deal with authorities. Like, oh my God, and money laundering and terrorists. And I thought banks just, saved money for people and that's it. Okay, so everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'll call out your name and you can ask your question. If you are too self-conscious, you can just type in your question and I'll read it for Mr. Bergmann here. Thank you. We have a lot of time for questions. Ask anything.
Yeah, I have a question. Because now I'm studying at the PIC, it's more about the international cooperation, but I quite interested in like the banking area. I'm wondering like, isn't it too late for me to like learn something working at the banking, maybe accounting or something like this? Or I heard what you said like your job. I feel like I have low background like knowledge about that, but I'm worrying if I want to work at a bank, it will be too late or not, or what something else I can do, prepare from now or anything.
Basically, what I can tell you from my own experience, my undergrad major was marketing and management, and my first internship was finance and accounting. So you see, there's not the best fit, as I would say it. So I think even though you might not have like the exact backgrounds, there is always a way you can get into like a different path at every point in time. I don't, for example, as far as I know from what I heard, especially in Asia, I would say it's easier, even though you might not have the educational background for a certain area, to
Yes.
get into, for example, a bank, because there's like this culture with all these like entrance exams, and that basically only checks your overall intelligence or like your overall fit with the company, and doesn't really focus too much on your educational background. So for example, even though you might not have the right internships at this point, or you have the PIC background,
Yes.
I don't think it's like the biggest problem, especially in Korea or like China or Japan. Whereas in Germany or Europe, yeah, I mean, yes, for example, in my position, someone with your background would be nice for our job as well, because we also need like broader like areas of knowledge, and also the whole compliance sector isn't really focused on only like business majors. Of course, it makes it easier if you have like a background in finance to start working in banking. But let's say if you want to join, yeah, investment banking in Germany or something like this, yeah, it's quite impossible actually if you don't have the right background, because they want your internships all to be like in line already with your future career. So at this point you might not get in, but there's always like certain like gray areas or certain areas that are like somehow related, but not exactly what you want to do in the end. And maybe if you step into one of these areas, at one point there might be a chance that you can switch from the like gray area into your desired area.
Yes.
So I think it's just like a question more of like time. And at this point in life, I would say you have a lot of time. So you don't really have to worry that you're like too like fixed in your position and you cannot get out, and you're too like focused on PIC and now you cannot join banking. I'm pretty sure you can join banking somehow. There might be a chance.
Okay, thank
Maybe
you.
there's like some kind of like little points in between where you have to get in first, and then everything develops in a certain direction, and at one point there will be the point where you can enter that industry. So it might just take you longer, but I don't think it's impossible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone? We have 3 minutes left. Do we have any other questions?
Oh, I have a question, actually. I heard that this China is doing the digital currency thing, backed by central bank. Like I feel like this China is like doing a lot of technology things like blockchain and something like the digital currency thing. So I feel like, should I know about this fintech related knowledge, or should I use to this technology?
What I would say, basically, if you are interested in a career related to China, I think technology is a really important area, because let's say Europe is still stuck in the Stone Age somewhere, where you have like paper letters and where you have like post stamps that you have to put on like the envelope. So it's a bit like old school, and we are not really developing modern stuff like Bitcoin based payment methods. But I think China and Asia in general, they are like 20 years advanced already. So in your case, if you want to have a career in these countries or these areas, you really have to know what's out there at least, and you have to have like a general idea about the developments that are going on, because at one point, let's say in 25 years, that's a lot of time, but still the industry totally changes and there's no need anymore for like AML people like us with like paper letters and all these like Excel based stuff that we do, for example, and there's like an AI that does everything. Then you might need a person that knows how the anti-money laundering AI works. And that is why you should always try to follow the new trends and be like somehow up to date, because otherwise you basically kick yourself out of competition. The same is basically for, in my opinion, for languages in general. Like, for example, I started learning Chinese once I joined Bank of China, because even though we can speak English and German here, it's still in Germany, it still helps you, like, because once you learn like a language, you usually also learn like soft skills along with it. Like, because I don't know, there's a book, I forgot the title, and he basically says the language that you're speaking or the languages that you are learning, they will basically influence like your way of thinking. Also, I think we're running out of time, so I don't know